Howdy, howdy, it's Jeff from jeffrey-thomas.com, and I'm going to go ahead and preview a really cool version of Mississippi Blues in the key of C by a gentleman named Mr. David Beckingham. So he has a version of this on YouTube. Make sure you follow it. I've got the tablature up, and I want to do a little bit better of an instructional video since a lot of students are actually requesting his tune. So with all respect to Mr. Beckingham, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Alright, and that was right to the last note of page 1 here. And let me go back in and explain a little more detail now that we've kind of ran through page 1. So a lot of students have been requesting this tune and a lot of other blues tunes, and they're getting smart to how the right hand has to work. So when you look at my horrible handwritten tablature, you're going to see at the bottom here, right hand, and then spelling out your letter names of the right hand, P-I-M-A. So that would translate into this. Your thumb is P, your first finger is I, middle finger is M, and then your ring finger is A. This is coming from classical guitar. This is very common in the guitar world, and if we go ahead and take a look at the ukulele, it's got 4 strings, so it kind of makes sense that, you know, P, I, M, and A should continue to work for labeling of right-hand fingerings. So when I was watching the video by David, he's doing a lot of the single note playing with his thumb, and as you can see from the tablature, I'm saying, then shifting over here to M, back to P, okay, the F7 chord, brush down with your thumb, come back with your thumb, and then catch that note on the first string with M, so that there's the whole last measure of the top line. So I've basically put the majority of the best right hand suggestions to get through this tune. I also put the chords that would be involved and the rhythm. So let's go ahead and talk about that for a second. You're going to come into this tune with a pickup. So you're not going to come in on beat 1, you're going to come in on the and of 3. So you would go like this. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and, okay? And you don't have to do a slide into that 7 if you don't want. You can just play the 7 straight away. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you're dealing with like a G shape here for that first measure. And all of the rhythm is notated here. I don't write tablature without the proper rhythm. It's just, there's no point. You're excluding 50% of the information to make it sound proper. So there are eighth notes, ties, triplets, and then at the end of the first measure of the third line, he is using a 16th note there. So that would be played. So you're basically picking the 3, sliding up to the 4, and then popping those other 2 notes on the first and second string. When you end up with this chord shape, this is a C9, and I notated that in the chord diagrams for you. So if you were to practice just that beat, it'd be 4-E-N, 4-E-N. And most of my students who are improving, they're improving for one reason. They're improving because we are focusing on the counting. You can only ignore it for so long. I mean, I'm not trying to be like a jerk or anything, but people, when you get to a certain level where you hit that brick wall, right? You're not getting any better. You're like just kind of picking it up, maybe losing interest. Okay? That is when your playing is lacking the details. And I am having my students understand the counting, understanding the technique, and then they turn around and they have the ability to play things at tempo with the metronome on. So here I am at 65, right? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so being able to clock things with the metronome is super important. Being able to understand that counting, turn it over to the metronome, knowing what your tempos are, is super important in the walking up the ladder, if you will, as a player. And I do the same thing with my practicing, so it's not like I'm just, assigning some sort of torture to students with the metronome because I'm bored. It's exactly what I do with my own practicing, right? For example, that triplet on the F7, first beat on the last measure of the top line. That's kind of a snag for people. So I'll lock up on one beat. And a lot of times in lessons, what I'm teaching my students to do is instead of throwing their hands up in the air and saying, oh, that's hard, I'm kind of saying, okay, yeah, of course it is. It's new to you. We need to understand the counting and the technique. There's a lot of stuff going on. So let's move slow. Let's isolate these sections and let's get some progress. Otherwise, it's very easy to just throw your hands up in the air and say, that's hard, and leave it at that. I mean, what's the end game? So a little bit of coaching on practicing here. Sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent. Sorry. But anyway, I wanted to thank David Beckingham because this is a very cool arrangement. I'm not going to follow his full length because it's highly repetitive, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up on page 2. And it'll be a cool little arrangement and hopefully a stepping stone for some people in, getting into some fingerstyle blues playing. All right, that's my speech. I'm done. Sorry about going over time. I'd like to thank the Academy. Just kidding. All right. So enjoy the video, enjoy the tab, and then get back at me if there's any questions. Alrighty, bye-bye.